So I'm sure you guys know that, you know, when people are going through chemotherapy, it's a really difficult process. It's not pretty at all. People get very sick. Their psychological state goes way down. They're always feeling weak. It's just not a good thing to be going through. And so what I'm going to be talking about today is cannabis and cancer. And when I'm done, you'll be more informed on the benefits that cannabis can have to chemo and cancer patients. And I will definitely be defining those two. So I'm going to be talking about THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana. It's the ingredient that gets you high. And I'm also going to be talking about the benefits that this can have to chemo patients. But first, what I'm going to be telling you guys about is a system that we all have in our bodies, and I don't know if you know about it, but it's called your endocannabinoid system. And you have cannabinoid receptors all over your body. They're in your brain and in your peripheral system. They're basically your CB1 receptors are in your brain, CB2 are in the rest of your body, like your peripheral limbs, your appendicular skeleton. And I'll try not to get too scientific with you, but we have like these receptors basically maintain homeostasis in our body. They regulate our mood, our appetite, and I got this from ncbi.gov. And basically, like sex drive, mood, appetite, and your immune system functioning, all of it is regulated by your endocannabinoid system in your body, and your body makes its own cannabinoids. And what marijuana is, it's a plant that also produces cannabinoids that are actually accepted by your body's cannabinoid system. They fit into the receptors like keys and locks. And that's why when you're high, you'll get effects like more, you have a much greater appetite, things can seem more, pretty, your surroundings can seem, it has that effect on your body. So, let's see, one second. Shoot. Okay, so according to Dennis Weeks, which is a medical doctor, he did a lot of research. He did cancer research as a biochemist. He basically explains what THC does to cancerous cells, and this is where it gets kind of controversial. There hasn't been like a ton of research on this, mainly because marijuana is illegal. But it sounds crazy, but just bear with me. This is the science of what THC does to cancer cells. It actually binds to the cancer cells, and it causes the production of a sphingolipid called ceramide. And what sphingolipids are they're actually bioactive signal molecules that they play a structural role in eukaryotic cells, so it's animal cells. They play a structural role, and they're also involved in the regulation of cell growth. And so what THC does, it makes the cell produce this substance, a lipid, and what ceramide does is it actually disrupts the production of ATP in the mitochondria of cancerous cells. And if any of you guys have ever taken biology, ATP is like the main energy source for a cell, and the mitochondria is like the powerhouse of the cell. And so basically it stops the production of ATP, and once that happens, the cell dies. If the cell has no energy source, it dies. And let's see. Daniel Bowles, also, this is from a critical review in oncology on Academic Search Premier. He says that when THC is injected in these cells, they eat themselves. And they don't, he says they give them, or it's been said that THC gives cancerous cells the munchies too, just like it does humans. But in reality, it's not. The cells just break down because they're not getting any energy and they're dying and the body is getting rid of them. And somehow, no one really knows how, but THC doesn't actually affect healthy cells like chemotherapy does. That's one of the biggest differences. Chemotherapy, it can kill the cancerous cells, but at the same time, it's also poisoning and destroying healthy cells. That's why people get so sick. So that would be one that's a crucial role that THC could have possibly in curing cancer that would make it much more desirable than something like chemotherapy. And so, I mean, even though THC has a lot of direct anti-cancer effects, it also has a lot of symptom effects to patients that are dealing with, everything that you all know happens when you're taking chemotherapy. It's definitely a substance that stimulates appetite. So in patients that aren't eating enough and becoming weak from all the chemotherapy, it can stimulate them to eat more. It reduces nausea, and it can also relieve pain. And one last thing it does that many cancer patients will stand by is it improves their mental state. It can definitely improve psychological health for people going through that kind of treatment. So you know, obviously, marijuana in general is a controversial subject, and it's, you know, studies have been kind of suppressed and not, you know, there hasn't been quite enough because it's illegal. But you know, there's tons of studies on how THC can affect cancer, and there's actually, if you just look anywhere on the internet, there's people that have their own testimonials that say they've, and I'm not saying you can cure it by smoking weed. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. There's a way to do it. Most people that have done it themselves or would do it with oil, with cannabis oil. You basically take it orally, and it's super concentrated. And yeah, I mean, there's people that have done it. And the very first test actually that was conducted on this was in 1974, and it was at a lab in Virginia. And it was with rats that were injected with just a cancer cell, which started producing tumors. And they had like one control group and an experimental group, one that they just let the rats basically die, and the other ones they injected with 100% THC in their brains. And after about 2 weeks, the tumors in the rats with the THC injected in them, they were cut down to like half. And then after about, I forget, it was after about 4 weeks, about a month, they were completely gone, and the rats were cancer-free. So, and that was the very first study, and you know, you would think why would you know, if this was true, if all this stuff happened, why would this not be, you know, why would it not be happening? Why would this not be being used in, you know, the medical field? And that is definitely, you know, that's completely different subject. I don't have the answer to that. I'm just, you know, that it's definitely, you know, who knows? We have a very established medical system, and I know that's definitely like a question that, you know, it got me to when I was doing this research, but. You know, so and you know, since it's illegal, that's why studies have been kind of, you know, that's why it's been kind of suppressed. So today you learned about your endocannabinoid system, which is a homeostatic mechanism in your body. Look it up; it's really, really interesting. You'll never get it covered in your health class either. You learned about what THC can do to cancerous cells, and you also learned about the benefits that marijuana can have to people suffering from chemotherapy. So hopefully, you know, this intrigued you guys, and it'll kind of spark you guys to maybe do your own research on this, because, you know, this is a totally unbiased, even though, I mean, this isn't about me liking weed or anything. It's a totally different, like, it's very interesting, and it's a very, it's an emerging field. So I'm happy I got to share it with you guys. Thank you.